From the very moment Jungkook stepped into the spotlight, there was no doubt that he carried something rare. The voice that could tremble hearts, the presence that could command silence in a storm. HYBE recognized that. They saw not just a trainee, but an artist who could redefine possibility. From the first investment, the company staked everything on belief. Belief in potential, belief in magic, belief in someone who could take dreams beyond reach. HYBE's spending on Jungkook did not begin when he debuted. It began long before any stage lights, before cameras, even before expectations. It was a cost paid in lessons, mentors, soundproof rooms, hours in recording booths, nights of vocal conditioning, dance studios rented repeatedly, injury treatments, choreography refinement. All of those invisible investments. Each coach cost money, each studio lease cost money, each revision of choreography, each vocal take, each run-through under harsh lights, each moment until perfection, their sum is massive. And the company paid in full. They tendered equipment, microphones with precision capture, speakers with exact feedback, acoustics designed to deny flaw. They brought in producers who sculpted sound, engineers who refined texture, designers who crafted performance visuals. They built stages to showcase him, built lights to interpret his every move, brought in stylists to elevate his every appearance. All because they believed that what Jungkook could become was worth the cost. They trained his physical form, his stamina. HYBE paid for nutritionists, physical trainers, physiotherapists. They covered health checkups, treatments for injury, rest periods, not just as required, but as strategic investments. Because performance is not sustainable without care, they disciplined his schedule, refined his style, polished his attitude. Each step shaped him into more than trainee, a peak performing artist. They also invested in marketing, not just image, but identity. Photo shoots, hair, wardrobe, image consultation. They made music videos expensive, conceptual, cinematic. They didn't settle for basic. They reached for artistry. They invested in production costs, sets, locations, crews executed with care, tours, album rollout, international promotion. Everywhere Jungkook appeared externally, HYBE had poured funds internally. They didn't negotiate corners. None of this cheap, none of this small, and all of this adds up. The labels, the fees, the time. If one puts together what was paid for his training, production, marketing, health, image, HYBE's cost for Jungkook must be enormous. HYBE reportedly has spent over $12 million on Jungkook. That number accounts for training, production, marketing, global promotional efforts, healthcare, travel, styling, and performance-related expenses. It reflects belief meeting investment. That sum is staggering. 10 million plus in financial terms, but infinite in emotional terms, because every dollar means sweat, tears, hours. It means hours in practice rooms when others sleep. It means silence before applause. It means rejecting comfort to pursue excellence. HYBE didn't just spend money. They spent hope, they spent risk. They said, "We commit." And Jungkook responded. He didn't disappoint. I think this level of spending proves something simple. HYBE saw irreplaceability. They saw a talent worth extraordinary care. The financial investment becomes a reflection of respect. When a company spends this much, it is betting not merely on profit, but on legacy. And Jungkook's presence now demands that kind of legacy. Even more, to allocate this amount, HYBE had to make choices what to prioritize, what to enhance. They chose to dedicate resources to his development, his sound, his performance, rather than dump him into mass production. That choice is rare. Many investments in the entertainment world aim lowest common denominator. This was opposite. HYBE raised stakes. They upheld standard. That, to me, is part of why Jungkook shines. Because behind him stands a company willing to invest not just money, but faith. When a company pours in such significant financial, what happens to the artist? They become responsibility, promise, symbol. For Jungkook, the investment meant expectations. The wait started early, but also opportunities, the facility to experiment, the support to try, fail, and try again. Because HYBE didn't stop funding its success. It kept going, refining, redefining, more coaches, more rehearsal time, better visuals. More collaborations across borders, more exposure to different styles. They shielded potential with resources. Yet resources alone cannot form greatness. They provide soil, but the seed must grow. Jungkook's talent is fierce, but HYBE's investment made space for that fierceness to breathe. It elevated what could be average into exceptional. I believe that HYBE spending directly shapes not only how large Jungkook's success is, but how deep the texture, the nuance, the artistry. That kind of depth cannot be monetized fully, yet comes from relentless refinement backed by perpetual funding. Consider his vocal production. HYBE could have skimped by using basic studios. Instead, they used high-end facilities, brought in sound engineers with global reputation, fine-tuned mixing and mastering until every note is clear, every emotion audible. That costs. But the result, performances that feel intimate, even in arenas. That emotional beat, when he transitions from whisper to roar, feels real because of production choices, because behind what you perceive lies thousands of dollars of refinement. Also, his choreography. Some companies hire minimal choreographers just to get by. HYBE hired multiple choreographers. They rehearsed with intensity. They matched movement to music, to lighting, to stage design. They practiced until steps sync with heartbeats. The spending on rehearsal space, staff, safety for dancers, injury prevention again, expensive, yet visible in every performance. Jungkook doesn't merely dance, he commands stage. Promotion. Global campaigns in Europe, America, Asia. HYBE paid for billboard space, digital ads, photo shoots in multiple cities. They used high-budget music videos when visuals cost hundreds of thousands per scene, when locations are remote and special, when long-shot takes require extra days, those accumulate. For example, video shoots that span 2 or more countries with international crews cost more in travel, lodging, and equipment shipping. HYBE covered all that. It's no exaggeration that promotional budgets for an artist of Jungkook's level run into millions annually. Let me assert that $12 million figure is conservative. It excludes opportunity costs, future earnings lost to maintain exclusivity, parts of apparel sponsorships, unpaid endorsements, intangible branding value, but it shows seriousness. It shows that HYBE treats Jungkook not merely as commodity, but as cornerstone. Emotionally, this level of financial commitment says, you matter, not for what you can give now, but for what you will become. When a company spends millions to grant you resources, you feel an obligation to honor that investment through work, through growth, through art. And Jungkook, in my view, lives up to that obligation. He pushes, he experiments. He doesn't rest on talent alone. He refines. He surprises. There are days of exhaustion, injuries, vocal strain, dance demands. But HYBE's investment provides support, therapy, rest, recovery. That protection is not tangible to many observers, but underpins longevity. Because cost today of ignoring health is boundless. HYBE paid so Jungkook can endure, sustain, evolve. That says much about the kind of artist they intend him to be, one whose work lasts, whose legacy is not fleeting. I opine that no other artist under their label has seen such multifaceted spending so consistently. It's not one-time splash, it's ongoing. Every album, every tour, every appearance, HYBE continues investing, because Jungkook's growth demands that. Every year they renew commitment, sound, dance, image, production value. The spending scales with his ascent. More resources as his reach broadens. That pattern reveals both faith and strategy combined. Jungkook is not a risk. He is a promise fulfilled. This investment also shapes how Jungkook is perceived. People see not just an idol, but an artist, polished, refined. It shifts expectations. Fans expect excellence. Critics expect maturity. Because when a company spends so much, slack is not an option. HYBE's investment sets bars for performance, for visuals, for contribution. And Jungkook exceeds many. There's power in seeing an artist who matches investment. When show opens, lights rise, voice starts, there's confidence. One senses readiness. That comes from countless hours, from resources that allow second chances, from professionals working behind scenes. Because cost covers more than just stage. It secures consistency. It ensures that when Jungkook opens his mouth, the sound will be clean. When he moves, choreography precise. When camera rolls, image sharp. All because HYBE invested in infrastructure, people, oversight. I feel strongly that without this financial support, Jungkook's growth would be limited. Talent alone insufficient. Without funding for high-quality production, he might sound raw. Without choreographers, dance may lack impact. Without marketing, fewer people would know. Without health support, body would break. So this spending is not luxury, it's necessity for greatness. In my opinion, HYBE's careful allocation of these resources molded Jungkook into more than idol. They sculpted an icon. At the same time, investment carries pressure. When millions have been spent, failure is costlier. But I believe Jungkook internalizes that pressure, transforms it into dedication. He doesn't recoil. He advances. He learns. He improves. He repays that investment with work, with sincerity, with performance. The give and take, HYBE spends. Jungkook gives back in artistry. To quantify, $12 million is large, but relative to total revenue generated by an artist of his stature, this cost is an investment that likely returns manifold. Albums, concerts, merch, endorsements, all revenue streams. Yet those revenues stem from quality made possible by that spending. Without investment, returns shrink. I conclude that HYBE spending is not cost, only it is foundation. Emotionally, what strikes me is the commitment. The belief in Jungkook's potential so deep that spending becomes almost an act of care, a patronage of art. When a company treats an individual like this, it elevates responsibility. It becomes love in another form. Love for art, love for audience, love for what could become. That care shows in every performance, every album, every smile. It shows in fan trust. It shows in Jungkook's readiness to face criticism, to keep improving. In this, there is purity, not of perfection, but of intention. HYBE intends Jungkook to be more than pop star. They intend him to represent artistry, growth, endurance. And their spending aligns with that intention. They invest not simply in popular appeal, but in timeless impression. That is rare. It merits recognition. Everything above converges into one truth. What HYBE invested in Jungkook is beyond financial. It is emotional, artistic, long-term. The $12 million figure makes headlines. It quantifies what many feel when listening to him but cannot fully measure, because money buys tools, not soul. Still, without that level of investment, the soul would struggle for space. In my view, Jungkook stands as proof that investment matters, not only because of what is spent, but because of how it's spent. HYBE did not dump resources indiscriminately. They calibrated. They focused. They aligned spending with artistry. That focus turned potential into excellence. That investment turned millions spent into moments, unforgettable choruses echoing in packed venues, eyes filled with tears, performances capturing heartbeats. HYBE's spending on Jungkook is not simply cost, it is covenant. Between artist and company. Between artist and audience. Between belief and realization. When a company spends this much, it commits itself publicly, it stakes its reputation. And Jungkook daily fulfills that. I believe that in years to come, people will look back at this period, the training, the albums, the visuals, the tours, as singular. A moment when all elements aligned. Talent, investment, artistry, an era unrepeatable. Jungkook will be remembered not only for his voice, his dance, his stage presence, but as one for whom a company spent everything necessary. That spending was real. $12 million is more than number. It represents accumulated choices, excellence over convenience, depth over trend, integrity over ease. That is the core of what HYBE poured into Jungkook. And those choices are why Jungkook is more than star. He is legacy,